They swore the tribal chief was finished. They said Roman Reigns would never walk back into WWE the same again. And for months, the whispers grew louder: he's broken, he's done, his reign is over. But last night, all of that changed. Because Roman Reigns returned. Not with gold, not with glory, but with rage in his eyes and a walking stick in his hand, a weapon, a symbol, and a warning. And the men standing across from him? Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. The two beasts who thought they could carve their names into history by destroying the legacy of the tribal chief. What happened in that ring was not a comeback. It was not a celebration. It was a declaration of war. And if you think Roman Reigns came back weak, you're dead wrong. This return was terrifying. This return was humiliating for those who dared to stand against him. And this return may have just changed WWE forever. The humiliation that sparked the return. Let's rewind. Bron Breakker, second generation, cocky, hungry. Bronson Reed, massive, brutal, unstoppable. Together, they've been running roughshod over WWE, targeting anyone in their way. But what they did to Roman Reigns, that crossed a line. The last time we saw Roman, he was left battered, humiliated, crawling out of the ring while the new generation of monsters laughed at him. The image of the once dominant tribal chief reduced to nothing. WWE fans still talk about it. Bron Breakker claimed Roman was washed. Bronson Reed said Roman was yesterday's news. The audacity to spit on a man who carried WWE on his back for over 3 years. That humiliation festered. It burned in silence. And now, Roman's silence is over. The return. Nobody expected. The arena went dark. The crowd knew something was coming, but no one knew what. Then, that music hit. Not the triumphant tribal chief entrance. No pyro. No golden glow. Just a chilling silence broken by the sound of Roman's theme. And then he appeared. Slowly. Methodically. Walking with a cane, not out of weakness, but out of fury. Every step echoed like a thunderclap. This wasn't the Roman Reigns who crushed Brock Lesnar. This wasn't the Roman Reigns who stacked Edge and Daniel Bryan. This was a broken king returning to reclaim his throne by any means necessary. And in his hand, that walking stick wasn't just support. It was a weapon. A symbol of his suffering, sharpened into rage. The crowd erupted. Half in shock. Half in fear. But everyone understood this was not a comeback. This was a reckoning. Bron Breakker's arrogance. Bron Breakker didn't flinch. That's the part that makes your blood boil. Roman Reigns, the man who carried WWE, the man who redefined dominance, walked into the ring, and Bron Breakker stood there smirking. He taunted Roman, called him crippled, laughed in his face. And you could feel the disrespect radiating through the screen. The younger generation mocking the foundation that was laid before them. Bron Breakker didn't just want to defeat Roman, he wanted to erase him. That arrogance may be the biggest mistake of his career. Bronson Reed, the monster who doesn't fear. Then there's Bronson Reed, a man who outweighs nearly everyone, who crushes his opponents with brute force. When Roman stared him down, Bronson didn't step back. He leaned forward. He wanted the fight. Together, Breakker and Reed looked at Roman as prey. They thought the tribal chief came back weak. They thought the walking stick was a crutch. But the truth? That walking stick was a warning. The first strike, and then it happened. Roman Reigns raised the stick, and the crowd gasped. In one brutal swing, he cracked Bron Breakker across the ribs. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Breakker dropped, clutching his side, his arrogance wiped clean from his face. Bronson Reed lunged forward, but Roman swung again, this time straight across Reed's knee. The monster fell, roaring in pain. Roman stood tall, not as the broken man they thought he was, but as a predator who had turned his pain into a weapon. The tribal chief had returned. Not to play games. Not to entertain. But to make them pay. The message. And then Roman spoke. Not with the long, drawn-out monologues of the bloodline era. Not with theatrics. Just raw, chilling words. You tried to break me. But I don't break. I only return harder. The arena shook. Every fan knew this wasn't the end. This was the beginning of something darker. Something more violent. Because Roman Reigns doesn't forgive. Roman Reigns doesn't forget. And now, Roman Reigns has nothing left to lose. The war to come. This confrontation wasn't the climax, it was the spark. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed didn't just face Roman Reigns. They awakened a monster that had been lurking in silence. The war that's coming isn't about titles. It isn't about respect. It's about survival. Roman Reigns versus Bron Breakker. Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed. 1-on-1. 2-on-1. It doesn't matter. Because Roman Reigns has declared war on the future, and the future should be terrified. The moment Roman Reigns swung that walking stick, WWE changed forever. But if you thought his shocking return ended with 2 brutal strikes, you're dead wrong. Because the aftermath wasn't about a single moment, it was about igniting a war that's already spiraling out of control. The bloodline question as Roman stood tall over Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. There was one question on everyone's mind: where was the bloodline? Solo Sikoa, Jimmy USO, even the lingering shadow of G. None of them were there. For years, Roman reigned with an army at his side. But now, he walked into battle alone, leaning on a stick and fueled only by rage. Was this Roman declaring independence from the bloodline? Or was this Roman proving he didn't need anyone to fight his battles? The silence of his family spoke louder than any words. Breaker's rage. Bron Breakker wasn't done. He came back swinging, fueled by humiliation, spitting venom at Roman. "You're finished," he screamed, lunging forward. But Roman wasn't finished. Roman was reborn. With one knee strike, followed by another savage swing of the stick, Roman dropped Breakker again. The crowd roared. And for the first time since arriving in WWE, Bron Breakker looked vulnerable. The arrogance was gone. The smirk was gone. All that remained was raw fury and fear. Bronson Reed strikes back, but Bronson Reed is not a man who stays down. The big man rose, furious, storming at Roman like a freight train. The arena shook with every step. Roman swung again, but Reed caught the stick mid-air. For the first time, someone stopped the tribal chief's weapon. Reed ripped it out of Roman's hands and snapped it across his knee. The crowd gasped. The walking stick, the very symbol of Roman's return, was broken. Roman staggered back, stunned. Reed smirked. For a brief second, the monster had control. But then Roman did something no one expected. He smiled. Because the stick wasn't the weapon. He was. The Superman punch returns. With the crowd in a frenzy, Roman launched forward and hit Bronson Reed with a Superman punch that shook the arena. The big man collapsed like a skyscraper crumbling to the ground. The sound, the impact, it was the return of a move we thought we might never see again. Roman's power, Roman's speed, Roman's fury, it was still there. The broken stick didn't matter. Roman Reigns had just proven he didn't need it. The message to the future. Standing tall over both Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, Roman raised his fist and roared. This wasn't the tribal chief demanding acknowledgement. This wasn't the head of the table dictating orders. This was Roman Reigns telling the future of WWE one terrifying truth: you can't erase me. You can't replace me. The message was clear. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed weren't just opponents. They were targets. And Roman wasn't stopping until they were crushed. The locker room reacts. Backstage, chaos erupted. The locker room was divided. Some wrestlers whispered that Roman was finished months ago, that this comeback was desperation. Others were shaken, admitting that Roman's return was more dangerous than ever. Because a Roman Reigns with nothing to lose? That's scarier than any tribal chief, scarier than any bloodline, scarier than any champion. The veterans knew it. The newcomers feared it. And the WWE Universe could feel it. The aftermath, a new bloodline? But here's where things get even scarier. Rumors began swirling almost immediately. If Roman doesn't have the bloodline at his side, will he build a new one? A darker, more dangerous faction fueled by his rage and betrayal? Imagine Roman aligning with unexpected allies, outsiders, hungry young stars, or even bitter enemies turned soldiers. This isn't just about revenge anymore. This is about war. And Roman is recruiting. Breakker and Reed's revenge. Don't think Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed are walking away quietly. The humiliation cut deep. The pain cut deeper. Both men are furious. Both men want revenge. Breakker has already vowed to finish what he started. Reed has promised to crush the so-called tribal chief for good. They're not retreating. They're not backing down. This isn't over. It's only beginning. And if you know anything about Roman Reigns, you know he's not backing down either. The war that's coming. Picture this: Roman Reigns, battered but unbroken, standing as the defiant king. Bron Breakker, the arrogant heir, desperate to take the throne. Bronson Reed, the monster who doesn't fear pain, coming for blood. This isn't just a rivalry. This is a war for the soul of WWE. A generational clash. The old guard versus the new. The legend versus the future. And the battlefield? Every arena, every pay-per-view, every moment Roman chooses to unleash his fury. The terrifying truth. Here's the terrifying truth WWE fans need to accept: Roman Reigns didn't return weak. He didn't return broken. He returned angrier. He returned meaner. He returned with a rage that no title, no bloodline, no glory can satisfy. This Roman isn't about acknowledgement. This Roman is about destruction. And Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed? They're the first sacrifices. The final image. The cameras cut as Roman stood tall, breathing heavy, blood in his eyes, fire in his veins. The broken stick at his feet. His enemies crawling on the mat. It was an image burned into history. Not of a fallen tribal chief, but of a reborn predator. Roman Reigns has returned. And now, WWE must face the storm he brings. The question left behind. So now the question is this: who survives this war? Does Bron Breakker finally cement himself as the face of the new generation by burying Roman once and for all? Does Bronson Reed rise as the monster who slays the king? Or does Roman Reigns prove, once again, that this is still his island, his empire, his throne, and that no one, not even the future, can take it from him? The WWE universe is divided. The chaos has only just begun. And Roman Reigns? He's ready to burn it all down.